Hmm. Well, that says to me right away, then we're all brothers and sisters. Because if we're made in the image of God, and we're all made in the image of God, then we're all like God. So then we have to be like God. So that could be something. But there's another side to that question. Tell me the question again.
What does it mean to you that humans are made in the image of God?
But who is our God? Who is our God? Because aren't we always making God in our image? And aren't we always saying things about God that are human-like? I remember as a child having kind of a big, strong, old, white beard image of God the Father, and maybe sitting in the clouds somewhere, but being kind of authoritarian and dominating and scary. I don't think that anymore. I haven't thought that for years. But I think God isn't a human. So what is it? What is it about this being in the image of? I did think about that after you asked me this. And I think it's really hard to put that in words. Because I think with all of the diversity that we have, and I mean in the diversity of human beings, but also the diversity of religious or spiritual expressions, cultures, even language. What does that mean? What does that mean? So it's an image, so immediately I go to a visual kind of form. But I think it's not that. I think it's not that. I think there are some things deep inside of us that, well, I actually believe that deep inside of us we're really good. We're really good. And I think it's that sort of fundamental, essential goodness that each of us have, even those of us among us whom we call wicked and bad. I think that there's a core of goodness that is, I don't even know or care whether it's identical, but it's a goodness that I think, I really do think that is of God. I think the Quakers say that. They have that expression, that is of God. But I think that. I think that. And I think when I experience myself in that, I feel in the flow. I really do. It's kind of like anything I do, or however I move, feels really comfortable and spontaneous and creative and just lovely.
So do you think we carry any specific responsibility as, I guess, the image bearers, people who are made in the image of God? What do you think is our responsibility since, we've been made in His image? Or do you think that carries any specific responsibility?
Yeah, to live it. Yeah, to live it, to touch it, to embrace it, to live it. And I guess even because I said historically my image of God the Father wasn't too great. I mean, it wasn't too appealing. It was scary, actually. I think the responsibility is to grow it, and to grow it with each other. I think that. I think that is getting to that goodness, or giving expression to that goodness, or drawing that out. I think it's a responsibility for us in our own lives, but I think it's the kind of thing that it's the kind of thing that has motivated me in some of the work that I've done. Especially I'm thinking of living, teaching, being with the boys from the bridge. I just love that. Here's a group of teenage boys who have these kind of criminal tendencies, and in some or other way they've been bad, or they've done madness to themselves or others. But it's just so amazing when, in my experience with them, they can be encouraged to do some artwork and then just get quiet enough to be able to touch back into their own selves. It's lovely because these are guys, boys for the most part, who've had a rough go of it already in their young lives, and if they're in a safe place, and they feel accepted or loved just the way they are, they blossom. And they're so nice and gentle. But not only that, they're so straight. They'll tell you anything, and they tell you with such tenderness. I remember this fellow who was working on a drawing one time, and he was just deep into it. Really, I hated to even say, how is it? But I didn't want to not give him some attention. So I said to him, what are you doing? And he said he was making a memorial. I don't think he used the word, but he was doing something to honor his homie. And honestly, at the time, I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know the word homie. So I said, what's a homie? And I was sort of whispering to him, because sometimes the other boys would take, a shot at that and say, she doesn't know what's a homie. Mostly we didn't make fun of each other, though. We had some good times, but we didn't make fun of each other so much. But he was so into this. So he was telling me what this was the sidewalk and a brick wall. And he was drawing every brick. And it was where his homie was shot and died. Oh, I was so touched, I was almost in tears. And so was he, because he was making this special thing for his homie. Now, I think that's that's facilitating, maybe, nurturing him in a way that brings him to a real spot in his life, no matter what, and no matter the circumstances, where he's touching something that's really tender and real about something that he really loved. And I think that's the kind of thing. I think we bear some responsibility in trying to find that in each ourselves, but in sharing or helping others find it in themselves. I think the image makes a lot of difference.
Yeah.
I think the image of Jesus makes a lot of difference. I'm not sure now that I have a visual image of God in my life. I think I have a relationship with God, but I don't, and for a long time, have a visual image of God. I have a relational experience with God, And I think I really do agree with you, because I think that I think God has been the subject of some really cruel interpretations, or scary ones, or, you know, I can just imagine some of the threats made in churches in particular, especially with younger ones who haven't found their own footing in life yet, and who, you know, are threatened that if they're not good, God will punish them, or God will do something bad, or it's just not the way it is. And I think there's some responsibility to clean up some of that, because I think probably, and I haven't really considered it deeply, but I think probably all the churches are guilty of that. All the major, or even just all the religions. And fear plays a huge piece in life anyway. And I don't think that we need to lay that on the feet of God, or anywhere with God at all.
Okay. So I have one more question. Being at MMS and just learning as much as we care about people and you know, helping through health and medicine, I've learned like care for the earth is a big concern. So how do you think we should interact with the earth, or our perspective on how we interact with the earth? How should our being image bearers and images of God, how does that influence, what's the relationship between us and the earth, and how should we think about it?
Well, I think we're finally coming to some dawning. And the dawning is that we have had, I think, a very, very serious mechanistic view of earth and creation. I think that's not the way indigenous people, Native American, indigenous people of many different cultures and lands think or relate to earth or creation in general. And I think because we are dawning to the beginning, I think, or it's not the beginning of the beginning, because I think early on maybe it was very different. But for us in the developed and industrial material world, I think we're finally catching on to the fact that we're one among. We humans are one among. And that it's all an awesome interrelationship and a network and a web of life, all interdependent. And all kind of, I think it's maybe, I don't know, sometimes it feels a little oversimple, but all one, really, because each depends on the other. So I think it's crucial. And I think we're just beginning to really get at some of that. But I think climate, I mean, one of these days, we're going to have to really become serious. I think the younger generation is really starting to get hold of it in a different way than we are. And it's interesting to me because they're the ones that are always on these devices of all kinds. But they too are the ones that are in the streets really trying to demonstrate and trying to get some of the all-knowing adults or the politicians or the moneyed concerns to really pay attention to the implications of things. So I think because it's a part of creation, I think that's why fundamentally we need to pay attention to it, and pay attention to it in a different way of being than we or our nearby generations, meaning our fathers, our grandfathers, our great-grandfathers, and our great-great-grandfathers. Some of us have lost it that long, or maybe even a lot longer. This way of being in nature and appreciating creation. All of it. That's think.